Good morning, everybody. Today we are with Arthur Carmazzi, the founder of Directive Communication International. And today we are with Arthur to understand how DC programs are helping various organizations across the globe and increasing the performance of these organizations and making a sustainable change and with an implementable solution. So Arthur, we work with a lot of organizations and these multiple organizations go through different types of training programs. There are thousands of training programs, there are thousands of concepts. So how a DC training program is unique as compared to the n number of programs are available in today for our clients?
Okay, well, first of all of our programs use the directive communication psychology. It is a specific methodology that is designed for group dynamics, basically how people act and react to each other in groups and how to influence those groups. It's a system. It's not a series of little bits of information you get from this book or from this book and everything else and just throw theories around so that people understand, oh, this is a theory, this is a theory, this is a theory. It's a very specific process to get people to achieve their own ideal model. Okay, so for example, many leadership programs will say, oh, okay, here's this leadership model, here's this leadership model, here's this leadership model, and therefore you have to adjust yourself to fit into one or multiple models, and well, that usually lasts about 2 weeks, and then you end up going back to the way that you started in the first place, if you even try it at all, because people may not let you implement it. And the other problem with the programs is that sometimes, okay, you get all of this really great information and it's just difficult to implement.
True.
Okay, you go back and people are busy and people don't want to do something, and your boss says, yeah, that's great, you got the training, so now do it, but they don't give you the resources, and so it ends up being less than optimum for implementation. Now, directive communication psychology has built in a very specific system or process by which the exercises actually help you to get better retention, and also the facilitation processes, which are also unique and very specific to directive communication psychology, also help you to get the more retention and more implementation. Okay, now how do they do this? Well, intrinsic in the exercises and the facilitation processes, besides the retention of the material, okay, it is incorporating engagement and motivation strategies at a subconscious level. Okay, but it's not hypnotizing you to try to do something that the trainer wants. Each one is very specific to the individual. Okay, so the individual makes his own associations to how they can be more successful in their working environment, and for that matter, associated to personal success in order to achieve greater results. Okay, and that includes leadership, but it also can be any essential soft skill. Okay, we did an assessment of how our processes compared to other experiential programs, and we got 42% more retention than an average experiential program, and 38% more implementation than an average experiential program.
Okay, so Arthur, you mentioned about these percentage, and usually technical training, when an organization do a technical training, it's very easy to see, okay, this is a participant has gone through a technical training and this is the skill set he has learned, and this is a skill set he is implementing in the process, in the business, what he is handling, and it is improving the productivity also. But when it comes to the behavioral skills training program, you mentioned that it is 38% increase in the implementation part. So can you just share how you actually measure this change when it is too difficult, especially in the behavioral skills training program or leadership training program?
All right. Well, okay. First of all, when we do the assessments, okay, we're using peer assessments before and after. Okay. So the peer assessments is basically a series of 10 questions that people within the scope of, identify on a scale of 1 to 10 how effective people around them or the people that they are assessing are in this particular skill set per se, and it also incorporates how people feel about them. Okay, are they more engaged after a 3-month period, or are they the same? Okay, or less? Okay, so the assessment part is essentially for the purpose of identifying what works and what doesn't work. Because in Directive Communication International, we're always looking for better ways to improve the ability to literally transform lives and transform organizations in the process. So we're constantly doing research. Okay, but when we're dealing with the implementation component, you have to consider that there are factors that are very specific to getting people to implement stuff. Okay, for example, a lot of people do exercises in their training, and exercises are good. A lot of exercises are fun. They get to do this, they get to do this, they have lots of fun. Wow, we had lots of fun in the training program, but at the end, what happens? Nothing happens. I mean, they like go back and it's like, wow, that was fun, but what, nothing ends up actually being implemented. Why? Well, because the exercises, even though they may have been relevant, are not really designed to internally motivate and give people aha moments about their own behavior in relationship to other people. And so we have literally created a set of tools, and are constantly developing other tools that support people not only understanding how they interact and how their behavior affects others at a personal level, but also how they can influence themselves through supporting a better environment of the people around them. So basically, I mean, for example, when you are in a group of friends, sometimes like you are very excited, you're very passionate, you're very engaged, you come up with great ideas, but maybe when you're in a different environment, it could be maybe a different group of friends, or maybe even work, okay? You're not that engaged, and therefore you're not that creative. You have different emotions that affect your ability to really come up with, or maybe you come up with the ideas but no implementation because of environmental factors, like maybe you'll get blamed if it goes wrong, or maybe people won't appreciate it, or whatever. So you've got all these different things that are going on in your brain. And by understanding the environment, okay, and how the environment affects you, you can create small modifications in behavior that affect the environment in order to basically affect you to basically be better. And of course, creating a better environment for everyone to have that synergistic competency development. Okay? So, with directive communication psychology, you are creating a process by which people can easily implement. Okay, this is the key. Okay, there's all these great theories out there, and I mean, you know, some of this stuff is brilliant, but it's not easy to use, and it's not easy to implement. Okay, and a lot of this stuff, like for example, there's a lot of these profiling tests out there, and the profiling tests are great if you're an HR manager and you want to know everybody. But they may not be good for the individual down on the ground, or on the front line, or maybe on the customer service desk, or even, you know, in the kitchen, to apply in order to create an environment where people can connect with each other, understand each other, communicate with each other, things that are difficult to communicate. I mean, especially in Asia, okay, and the Middle East, we have difficulties where people generally keep quiet. So what that means is there's no feedback. There's no feedback to the manager. The manager may think he's doing a great job, but they're not getting, because they're not getting feedback, they don't know, and meanwhile they're creating all this internal animosity and disengagement, which affects overall productivity and personal emotional gratifications at work that if they were just modified, if there were just small modifications in the environment, could really bring people to a higher level of passion, like just when you first started your job, when you remember you're very excited when you start your job, and really rekindle that, because that's the natural state of people when they are engaged. Creative, innovative, communicative, trying to make friends, doing teamwork. It's all there. We all have that. It's just that once we get into an environment, sometimes that environment starts to take away these things, and it creates underperformers. Directed communication psychology reestablishes that factor. See, the thing is that a lot of models, for example, they expect you to change. Oh, okay, you have to be, if you're going to be a leader, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to be this. You know, try this model. Maybe there's this model. You got to change, or maybe you combine the models. Anyway, you still got to change. Okay, directed communication model process does not require change, because it helps you to find all of the facets that you already have in different environments. It may not be at work. Maybe it's with your kids. Maybe it's with your friends. Maybe it's with some of these people that you do some charity work with. It doesn't matter. But in each of these different areas of your life, okay, you have leadership abilities that come out. And sometimes all you need to do is basically identify where they are, bring them together, refine them into your own leadership identity model, and you are creating a model that you don't have to change because you already have it. You're simply repurposing all the little bits of who you already are to create a purposeful and competent set of leadership skills that you can apply across all environments.
So it means the step number one is to first create a self-awareness of that individual through DC tools, which help him to first understand his own self and give him the tools and the processes to implement how he can be a better leader through a structured program and structured process. Am I correct?
Yes, you are absolutely correct.
That's right. And another thing, when we work with these multinationals, you talk about the color brain. And in color brain, the direct communication model, it is used by a number of MNCs across different cultures, different locations.
Right.
So how do you make that it is same across different location in spite of the different culture? How do you bring the same amount of the training across location? If an organization is, for example, it's set up in India, it has presence in Philippines, Middle East, the people are from different culture background, different languages. So how do you make sure that everyone is in the same synergy?
Well, first of all, okay, Duran, we have right now, at this moment, we have 296 certified directive communication trainers in 16 different countries, right? So that basically means that we already have the certified trainers who have gone through a rigorous certification process, which is accredited by the American Institute of Business Psychology, and for that matter, directive communication psychology is an accredited methodology, and they are versed in colored brain as well as the other DC models. So basically, if you have one MNC, for example, in India, but they also maybe have somebody else in the Philippines, and there's a lot of virtual communication, right? So our India certified trainers would be able to support the Indian MNCs, and of course the culture is connected because they already know the culture, but they also know the foundations of DC and the components that transcend culture. Okay, but then our people in the Philippines would be able to apply the Filipino culture and the processes that are also specific to colored brain and apply the cross-cultural aspects so that they will be able to more easily connect and really understand each other. See, I mean, for example, colored brain is the best part of colored brain is that it's simple. Okay, it doesn't try to identify personality because personality is very complicated. Okay, so colored brain deals with one thing. It deals with how people interpret information and take action on that, and the action processes that they use to action on that information, or no action on the information. So it's only about the process, it's how people do things. And just that component alone helps to really understand why some of the people that you're working with or across the ocean may be driving you a little bit crazy, and why they're doing it, and how you can deal with them more intelligently to literally support their success instead of failure. Because oftentimes within our departments, even within one company, okay, people are accidentally setting up other staff or their subordinates for failure, because they're looking through their colored glasses, and things just seem so obvious and so clear, and they don't really see that other people have literally different genetic processes of getting clarity and taking action. And so therefore, there oftentimes is conflict, which of course creates lower emotional engagement, which of course then goes into creating underperformance, for example. Okay? And when you can apply this cross-culturally, and for that matter, cross-geographically, you're actually be able to apply this in phone calls, in emails, in all sorts of communication to really support faster success of the people that are working together virtually or even within the same team.
Thank you so much, Arthur, on enlightening us of the DC psychology concept and how it is helping. I'm sure when we will be speaking to our client, and the client who are listening to this will certainly get a lot of clarity and a lot of information how they can actually get benefit of DC psychology training in their organization and bring a more sustainable and implementable solution. Thank you so much, Arthur.
My pleasure. And bye-bye. See you.